Hello, so welcome to today's video. It is indeed May the 4th, so may the 4th be with you, and pew 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 to all of you. Today we are going to be doing a scratch wound, so whether that's a wolf scratch, tiger scratch, whatever. I've tried to do it as cheaply and budget effective as possible, so for things like stage. I am currently living with my mum. She is my isolation buddy, so most of my effects stuff is actually back at my flat. So what we're going to do is just work with what we've got for now, and if you didn't have any of the stuff that I'll be using in the video, I will put in the description box like different alternative products you could use as well. So without further ado, we'll just hop straight into it. Okay, so here are the products that I will be using in this video. I will just explain a few quick things to avoid later confusion. So I'm only using this because it's Isopropyl, so known as I.P.A. This helps to break down like a lot of products such as the Illustrator, or if you use any like grease paints, or even if you want blood to be runnier, it just helps break it down so it can be more usable and not so hard to work with. So although it says nail polish, it is actually Isopropyl. The moisturizer, you can use any moisturizer, mostly like Nivea, things cheap like that. I just have an abundance of Shea Butter, so I'm just using that. Also, blood-wise, choose whatever blood you want for the effect that you want. I'm making quite a fresh looking wound, so I'm going to be using the Fresh Scratch as well as the Fresh Scab. So this will just kind of give like a nice congealed effect. Also, instead of Prosage, you can use things like Spirit Gum. They're a bit cheaper to get hold of. And also, if you want to do like an old wound or a wound that's getting a bit infected or anything like that, you can also get things like aged blood and pus, which is really nice. So Pam does like a lot of stuff like this, and I find the products on there are absolutely amazing. That's what we used a lot of through university, to be fair. We used a lot of Pam products. Sunburn Spray as well. This stuff is absolutely incredible, but you could probably make your own just with a bit of fake blood and do quite a lot of the Isopropyl, so mix the two together and it'd break the blood down. Okay, let's just hop straight in. Okay, so first of all, I like to apply a kind of pinky layer to the skin. So I'm going to be using this, which is Sunburn Spray, and this is from Pam. You can, however, use like the rosier colours in like Illustrator palettes, or even just blusher if you're doing it more on the cheaper side. So I'm just gonna do a little bit of a spray here and just let that sink into the skin. What I like about the Sunburn Spray is it just creates, as it dries, a really nice natural looking pinkiness to the skin. Sometimes it's quite easy to get a bit carried away with blusher and things, so if you do use blush or any kind of pinky shadows, just try and be a bit more on the subtle side with it. You don't need to go over the top. This just makes it easier for the colours to blend later on. So the next thing we're going to take is an adhesive. So I'm using Prosage. You can use, again, like if you're doing it more on the cheaper for like stage productions, things like that, you can always use Spirit Gum or any kind of Mastix glue. It will all work the same. So I'm just going to take a little sponge and I'm just going to stipple the glue. And I'm just going to wait for the glue to become a little bit tacky. Okay, so now the glue is quite tacky, I'm just going to take a little bit of moisturizer. You can use Nivea, anything like that. And I'm just going to rub that into my fingers. So this will help prevent too much of the heat from my fingers. grip into the wax and making it become really sticky and unmovable. So the wax that I'm using is the Ben 9 Nose and Scar wax. This is one of my favourite ones to use, but you can use whichever ones. If you're doing a most realistic, it would be ideally done with silicones and things like that. But if you just want a quick one-off application for like a stage show or anything like that, waxes are just really quick, affordable, and just quite easy to use once you've got the hang of it. So we're just going to take some of the wax out of there. So I'm just going to get a spatula and just grab a decent amount. So I've took a nice kind of little ball of it here, and I'm just going to try and quickly move it into more of a kind of sausage shape. Okay, and just flatten it down a little bit. And then I'm just going to place this over the glue here. So this is where I want to have it. And then it's literally just a case of blending it all out. So I'm just going to get a little bit more moisturizer on my hands. Okay, so I'm just using my fingers to just blend down the edges. If it breaks, it's not too much of a worry. You can just remove bits as you go. As I say, if you've never used this stuff before, it does take a tiny bit of getting used to, but you can just practice and just keep starting again if it's not quite right. And then just literally just start to smooth down the edges on both sides. Try and remove some of the product if you do have an excess, because you don't want it to be a big bulky chunk of wax either. So I'm just scraping little bits off as we go as well. And just taking a little bit of the Nivea and just re-moistening the wax as we go as well, which just makes it a lot easier to work with and to keep blending. So at the minute, because I don't have my sculpting tools, it's not the best. You are better if you do have some decent spatulas. Because I'm currently at my mum's and isolating with her, a lot of my stuff is actually back home. So it's just a case of kind of using what I've got. You can use butter knives and things like that as well. I've seen people use, so just a case of playing, really.
You call me a saint, but you know I'm a stranger, all willing and able to do what you want. You think I'm a thinker, but I'm just a singer, all busy and pretty, just making believe. Boy, I'm falling, I'm falling, I'm falling, I'm falling, I'm falling down to obscurity. Don't let me ever be this alone. I'm falling, I'm falling, I'm falling, I'm falling, I'm falling. Shouldn't be trusting me, I could be making it all up, you know. I control, you don't know me. I'm a danger to myself. I control, you don't know me. I am fading unfelt. You look worried, and maybe you should be, cause this is a warning that I'm throwing out. Cause I'm the worst player that ever will play you, to mix up sweet words with the girl's sanity. Boy, I'm falling, I'm falling, I'm falling, I'm falling, I'm falling down to obscurity, don't let me.
Okay, so now I'm just going to take some of my fixing powder I'm going to put a decent amount on here. So this is just going to help remove that sticky layer, so it's just not as tacky and annoying. There we go. And then just get a brush, a powder brush, just to wipe the excess away. Oops, dropping everything. My workstation isn't the best either, guys. I am sorry. There we go. Okay, so that is much better. There we are. So the next thing I'm gonna do is take some more of the Sunburn Spray. I don't know what is wrong with my words today. Just take some more of this and just spray that over, and then I'm just gonna quickly let that dry in. Again, you can just use your blushes, things like that. I will be, just for the colour, I am going to be putting some more of the Illustrator palette. So this one I have is actually I think it's the zombie one, or like dead skin one, I don't know, but it has a lot of like bruising and things like that as well. So probably take a little bit of the rose colour and just flick some more of that on there later. So just while that's drying, I'm just going to get a nice thin lip/eyeliner brush. So, because this we are going to use just to create some depth on the inside of the wound. So, the one I'm going to be using, I'll just use one of these. So just a really nice thin brush like this. Like you can use like nail art ones or whatever, anything like that. And you can either use like eyeliner or just whatever you have that's dark, even lipstick if you want, but I'm going to be taking the old school Bruise Wheel, and I like to take some of the dark blue here. And this is what I like to go inside the wounds and just create a depth, so it makes the wound look deeper. So we're just going to paint that in. Try not to get it too high up on the wax, but if you do catch a little bit, it's not the end of the world, because it's going to be a bloody mess anyway.
Be this alone. I'm falling, I'm falling, I'm falling, I'm falling, I'm falling. Shouldn't be trusting me, I could be making it all up, you know. I control, you don't know me. I'm a danger to myself.
Okay, so if you've never used one of these before, you can get these off most special effects stores. This one is from I.P.A. This one is the zombie one. They do all kinds of different styles, but basically you use Isopropyl, so known as I.P.A, just to activate the colour as well. So I'm just going to put a little bit in there, and I'm using a toothbrush, but you can use like a cut up paintbrush or a nail brush, anything that allows you to kind of flick the product. Okay, so I don't know if you can see, this is what I'm doing. So just mixing that I.P.A in there on the toothbrush, and then it's just a case of then flicking the product. Yeah, so let's go in. I'm just going to go in for the really dark colour there then. But again, you can use like your blushes, powders, things like that as well. So that is creating a few nice little kind of blood splatters. I don't know if you can see that on camera. There we go. So it has created a few nice little bits of like a dark splatter. We've already got a nice bit of the red from the Sunburn Spray and some of the pinky tones that I used from this palette as well. So now is the fun part. We can just move on to the blood. So I'm just taking a congealed blood and I'm just putting like little tiny bits of it inside the wounds. So I'll show you this. This is a much brighter blood. It's still quite thick. You can use a nice runny blood as well if you like. We'll stipple that bit out. If you make a bit of a mess, don't worry, because we are going to stipple around the wound slightly as well. So because I didn't bring any watery blood with me, which is a bit annoying, I've created a little story for my wound. So this wound is a couple of hours old, it's been wiped over, so it has kind of stopped its bleeding as much now. So it's not runny. So I'm just going to take this toothbrush and I've put a little bit of the I.P.A in with the lid just to get some of these remnants, just to coat the toothbrush nice, because as I say, this is a very thick kind of blood. This one is the Fresh Scratch, is the one that I'm using. So I'm just randomly just kind of dotting it about. I'm gonna see, I mean, this is a complete experiment, so this may or may not work, but I'm going to take a glob of the blood in there, in the lid. And see, a lot of this SFX stuff is about experimentation. The more you play with things, the more comfortable you get with trying different things, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work. So let's take this glob, and I don't know if we can create like a drip coming down. So that kind of looks like a drip. That's not too bad, is it? So that did kind of work. Let's try a little bit more. Take another little glob. A bit more of the I.P.A. See that? So I'm not too mad at that, to be fair, for saying I haven't got any of the right blood that I should be using. It's not too bad. So I'm just going to take some more of this, now it's watered down, and should we try flicking and see what happens? Will I get some splatters? It's a little bit too greasy for it to splatter, so we'll just stick with the dabbing for now. And let's just use our finger to just blot some of the blood. Eh? Could do a nice bit of, if you press down, you can kind of blot the blood into the wax as well, which creates quite a nice effect. More splattery. Okay, so to finish it off, because I can still see some of the wax there, it's quite hard to do it and film and then apply it through a camera. So I'm just going to take some more of the Sunburn. Ah, wicked. There we go. That's more like it. And I'm just going to let this dry and then we're pretty much finished with this. So I'll take some pictures because this isn't the best angle for me to show you either. So I'll take it off the tripod and I'll show you what it looks like from a 3D kind of level.